This project is going to show how to make cards like this using our 2 packs of background paper. We have a pastel pack with white words and then white with pastel words, and they get combined together really nice. Simply by cutting holes, using 2 layers and cutting holes in one layer, you get a sort of peephole effect, and it emphasises just certain parts of the sheet, which I think looks really quite smart. And you get several colours in the pack, so it's easy to make a collection of cards that all look similar but slightly different. These are all based on our 6x6 style, which is 144 by 144 millimetres. So it's a couple of millimetres off of 6 inches, but to all intents and purposes 6 inches. We've used white for a clean, smart look. For each version we're using the colour for the background, because then it's strong when it shows through the paper. So the first thing is to decide what part of the sheet we want to use. Are there any words that we want to emphasise, like you might want to emphasise the happy birthday or the make a wish or have a great day, birthday wishes. That's up to you. And I'm thinking I'm going to aim for "It's your birthday" in the top corner here. So we want to start a trim. Above this it's your. Move those out of the way. Now if I put that onto the cutting mat and make sure it's square on the cutting mat, then I can use a ruler and a knife to get a nice straight line. This is the phrase I want at the top, so we're going to the line above and we're going to trim. Now this piece could be quite useful for other times, so I would save that piece. And our card is 144 as I mentioned, so now we need 145 would be here, and we're going to need to take off a bit to get a border. So really we need to come above this line of words here, unless you like half lines of words. I prefer to have a whole line on. Just check and make sure we've not messed up. Here we go. So now that sets how wide we want to make the paper. And before we trim the width, if we trim this paper to the depth that we want, then we can trim the width together and we know they match. So we've got to decide how much of this we want on our sheet. It's handy because these packs of paper, all the words come in pretty much the same place. There may be a fraction of a millimetre difference, but that doesn't make any difference for this project. For this range of cards, for this little set of cards, I'm using our 6x6 card, which is 144 by 144 millimetres, and our papers are just a little bit wider. In each case we need to use the coloured version for the base, because when it shows through the hole it's a bit stronger and looks emphasises it more. We're going to have to cut our paper to fit onto the card, and we can choose which words we want where. So we could trim, for instance, here, and then we will get this happy birthday down the bottom. So we place this on the cutting mat. Most of the others I've used from up the top here, but this time to change it up. Okay, that's the have a great day we're going to have at the top. We're going to trim quite close to the words because we need a border of white around the card. and then it's this row of words. That would be 145mm, and because we want the border we're coming in a bit. So if I go to the bottom of this, it will give us a couple of millimetres border. So we're going tight up to the words here. There we go, top to bottom works quite well. So now we need to decide how much of this to cut off, because we want to trim these two together, because when we make the holes then they'll line up. If they're exactly the same width, they'll line up. So the bit we're going to cut out is just for you here. So the first thing is to make, we want the just for you here to be on. So we're going to cut between these two rows of words, which will leave this much exposed of the background blue. There we go, so we've got a nice blue stripe at the top, and then I think we'll take off to I think we want this happy birthday to be cut out, perhaps, or have a great day. We'll have a great day to cut out, so we're going to take this off here, which will give us an equal band of blue at the bottom. You can choose to make the borders bigger or smaller as you please, so it's important to decide what words you're aiming at first. There we go. So now if we put the two, I'll best check it actually. So we have just the little bit of blue border top and bottom. Now if we put the two together, we've got to make the sides the same, the width the same as the depth. So we have 140mm on our depth, so we're going to make 140 on our width. Keeping an eye on what words we're going to use will help us decide where to cut in the width as well. We've got to decide whether we want to take a little snip off this edge or all off of one edge. So that would be there. I think we're okay to go off one side. So now we know that the two of them are going to be the same width. They fit on the card with a pretty equal border all around. So we're ready to go. Back to the cutting mat again, and we're going to take out the words that we want to emphasise. I use the cutting mat to make sure that we keep everything square, and we're going to leave the dots on the paper, so we want to trim out what we're going to take out. And while I have it on the cutting mat and square, I'll do the cuts in this direction, all of the cuts in this direction. Then we can turn it and do the other direction. This It's For You is the next one, I think. I don't want to have just a row down the centre, I want to stagger them. So It's Your Birthday, I think, is the one to go. Although it is quite close to the edge, it should be alright. And I think we could take out Best Wishes. So we're saying, just for you, it's your birthday, best wishes. And then the next bit will be below the band. I think Have a Great Day is a good one to take out. This Happy Birthday might be a bit tight. Or we could take out this Happy Birthday. So we'll take out this Have a Great Day. So as you can see, it's about picking the ones we like, the ones we want to emphasise, and making a pleasing scatter across the page. Just for you up here. If we don't quite cut through, we can always snip it. So we've got Best Wishes, just for you. We've got Happy Birthday down here. I think it's actually easier to do each word rather than do it in sequence across. We've got It's Your Birthday here. Now when they're very close to the edge like this, you have to hold very firmly on the ruler because the paper will twist much easier. Not quite gone to the edge there. Then we've got Have a Great Day down here. And then our main Happy Birthday. So now if we place it over our blue panel, you can see you get everything, all the things lining up nicely. Because we get a little, you could stick this down with tape, but because you get a little slidability with glue, a bit of wiggle room, I'm going to use Yoo-hoo. So a little bit of a smear, spread it out. Yoo-hoo dries really quite quickly, so you don't get a lot of time. And we're lining up on that wish. Just make sure everything looks good. And we'll pop it onto the card. Again, glue or tape for this. We've got the glue out, so we'll go with it. If you have a preferred glue, a glue stick or anything like that, it will work. Glue it down. There you have it. To go across this, I've chosen champagne glitter paper, which I think looks really quite smart. And we need to make it fit between over 2 rows of wording really. So depending on how tight you go, we're going to need about 15 to 18 millimeters. So we need between 15 and 18 mil of the glitter paper. Now I find glitter paper is a little bit slippy, so I prefer to cut it face down. Our ruler is segmented into 5mm pieces, so that would be 15 mil, so that will be somewhere around 17, 16 and a half, 17. And that should be fine. And then we can go across like that. For this part I'm going to use double-sided tape. Place on 2 rows. And I press the tape firmly in place in case it decides it wants to lift up later. Remove the backing. And we'll pop in place. So we're going to cover over. I'm going to take it just beyond so I can trim it, as I've got a little bit of tape over the end. Now you can use a knife and ruler for this, or you can go slow and steady with a knife and trim it to the card edge. There we go. Now these are the little words that we had left over. I could use one of these words on the band. I'm thinking I'm going to want something across the band, and that's usually a peel-off sticker. I'm going to use gold and the dotty borders in keeping with the theme we've used so far. And for this one I'm going to take it inside instead of over the edge. So we'll pop it just on the inside of the band. You hardly notices, it's just a subtle little inference of pattern, which I think is quite pleasing. And then the second. I'm going to pop this up on sticky fixer pads to just raise it a little. Because it's paper, I'm going to want a few. Have a little desk dustbin. Keeps all the white little pieces in place. I don't want the paper to sag down in between, and it's going on glitter, so it needs extra support because of those two things. Press it firmly. Put it straight. And then I might just add a decoration along the bottom. Okay, I'll get the tweezers on that in a moment. There we have it. I think that one looks quite smart. Quite like the champagne with the brown. So there we have a blue version, the lilac version, the pink version. This one's got some little gems to jazz it up a bit with the flower. And then the grey version with a nice bright band to make the colours pop. This one we've highlighted with a little peel off stars as well, highlighted all the words. And I quite like the dotty border along the edge of the panel there, which just makes a little change.